guys. It is your girl AP and my illustrious co-host.
Hey, it's Nimade.
And we are back with another episode. I believe this is episode 7. Is it 6 or 7 at this point?
Seven? I thought it was like five.
No, 5 was online bullying. So
It's an episode.
yeah, okay.
So
It's an episode.
we'll
Um,
figure it out and it'll be in the thing below. But
it's a
yeah, we're
special
so
episode
excited to have
though.
it's a special episode because it's our first guest.
Yes,
We
we
have
have
our
our
first
first
guest today.
guest, and we're really excited about it. This is going to be Marcy Cruz. You guys may or may not know her, but she's a powerhouse in the industry, and she's got like a lot of resources, and um, she just celebrated like her a big birthday last year. You guys are gonna watch, and she can tell you how old she is now, but she does it with such grace, and so we really just wanted a chance to talk with her and let you guys, get some nuggets from her.
Yeah, and I'm excited to talk to her. A couple episodes ago, we said, okay, we'll talk about aging the next episode, and we never got a chance to. And it's definitely something that I think about because I'm getting older, but I love getting older. I know some people don't. My body doesn't always love it. My joints don't love it, but I love it because I feel like I'm more settled. Like, I don't know about you, Alicia. Like, I just feel more settled in myself as I get older,
Mentally,
and
yes, for
also
sure.
more like settled in the unknown. Like I actually feel like I know less, but I'm more okay with that because I no longer feel the pressure to know more. And I feel more like I'm a grown woman. Like I feel like before I was faking it, but now I'm really grown. Like I
Yeah,
was
I
full grown
actually
before. Now I'm an adult.
talked with a girlfriend this morning, and we talked about that, how like I did not feel like an adult in my 20s. Like I'm 30, I'll be 36 in a couple of weeks, and I'm like I feel like an adult now versus what I did in my 20s. Like we were still playing dress
Role
up.
play. Yep.
It was like we're practicing for the real deal. See you in the 30s and 40s, and we make
Yeah.
sense. So yeah,
Well,
that's
you're doing adult things at that age, like a lot of us, we're paying bills,
yeah.
going to work, in relationships. Like we were going through the adult motions, or at least what we were told being an adult meant, while not feeling like an adult at all.
I
And
mean,
that definitely my 20s.
yeah, no, I was gonna try to think if I actually ever did. I didn't. So there we go.
Yeah.
But we're now going to get Marcy's opinion on aging.
Yes.
So let's get
Yes.
right to it, you guys. So as we told you at the outset of the show, we are going to have a special guest, and here she is. It is the lovely Marcy Cruz. And you guys, she is just like kind of like a powerhouse in the industry. So Marcy, welcome to the More Than My Size show.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
joining
Thank
us.
you. Thank you so much. And thank you for the kind words.
Oh, of
I
course.
never
I
thought
have
of myself
more.
as a powerhouse. So, let me add that to the resume.
Look,
Okay.
listen, you and I have had some pretty intense conversations. You've put me onto so much information about the industry, things that I probably would have never thought about. So I look at you as an absolute resource. And that's why I wanted to have you on the show, because I know a lot of our viewership does come from plus women. And a lot of them are, are in the arena somewhere of wanting to be an influencer, blogger, model, or something. So I thought it was really important to have you on the show today. Namadi, do you want to start us off and let everybody know what we're going to be chatting about today?
Yes, but before I do, I have to say that Marcy, I too, when I first started getting into like the plus size community and just seeing who was out there and what was going on, like you were one of the first people who popped up. So your name's out there with good remarks and
And
good
we're
notes
giving
and
you
all
your
that.
flowers now, right now.
Thank
Yes,
you.
yeah.
I appreciate that. I appreciate
And you
that.
probably don't even remember, but we met when I was in Atlanta for the lifestyle honors, and you were
Yes,
so
I
proud of
remember.
me. Oh yeah,
I
so
remember.
definitely.
Who can
But
You
forget?
look
okay,
so
so
beautiful.
today, um, Alicia and I are talking about just getting older and embracing it, or how we're feeling about it. And a little birdie told me you have a big birthday coming up.
Well, yes, it already passed last
Oh, okay.
year, but because of COVID, I
Hmm.
didn't really celebrate it. So this year is the do-over.
Okay. How does it feel like hitting that milestone? Like, how are you genuinely about getting older? Do you love it? Do you hate it?
Hmm. Okay, well, I'm just to be, transparent, I celebrated my 50th birthday, which some people don't believe because
You
I
look
don't look
good.
my age. I
No,
don't feel my
not at
age.
all. Not at all.
I'm an OG. I've been around. So, and getting older is definitely a challenge within yourself because, it's like you feel one way, like people tell you you're supposed to feel a certain way at a certain age, right? They
Mhm.
have these stereotypes of how you're supposed to be. So if people hear 50, that's a half a century old. Do you hear this? Yes. I'm so sorry, people.
No, it's
Okay, we
fine.
look, we know what time it is. It's all right.
Yeah.
So, for me, it's like my body's going through these physical changes, but it's like my body and my mind are not in sync because
Yes.
there are changes you cannot avoid. You could be healthy, like I still travel and do my thing and I'm still, running with the youngins and all of that. But I'm going through menopause. I'm perimenopausal right now. The white hairs. You start noticing like your chin, your skin's getting a little thin there. You notice things about your body that are different. And of course, the big thing is, I'm not going to be able to have children, biologically. And that's something that I've had to deal with in therapy because I never had biological children. I chose my career. And then, next thing you know, I blinked and time just passed.
Mm.
And it was like, wow. And, I didn't have like the funds to like freeze my eggs or do all
Right.
these elaborate things that we have available to us now. A lot of it, people who are privileged, can really access that. I couldn't. So, right now it's a mental and physical thing because when you go through perimenopause, and if you're someone like me who has never had children but wanted children,
Mhm.
you have to go through that mourning process.
Mm.
It's grief all over again, but in a different form. And luckily, I've been in therapy for some years now after like I lost my dad and my brother and then my niece.
Mhm.
Just dealing with it. There's nothing wrong with therapy. There's such a stigma about it, but I have to tell you, it saved my life.
Okay.
So now I'm still in therapy, even though my grief situation has gotten better. Now it's a whole different thing. Now it's talking about what I'm going through with aging, because I have been called a dinosaur. People assume because I'm a certain age when it comes to the industry that I have to shop certain brands.
Mm.
Like, for example, oh, I'm 50, so I shouldn't be rocking no fashion or figure. And I'm sorry, but I'm gonna rock whatever I want to rock. I love
Yes, we
sneakers,
know.
prints, I love faux leather. I like real leather too, but a girl's on a budget.
Costly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know, I like to dress a certain way that may not fit what a 50-year-old is supposed to, according to whoever
Mm.
Right,
they
like,
are.
but that's it. Like, whoever is that person who decided all these crazy rules that we decided we have to follow.
AARP. Yeah.
I
Exactly. Oh, honey,
I
they
love
already
it.
started sending me letters, and I'm
Girl,
like, I'm
they've
not
been
ready.
started sending me letters. I don't know what that says about me, but so first of all, thank you so much for just opening up and being super transparent. Namade and I are huge fans of transparency, so we welcome it. And both of us are also very big proponents of mental health and therapy and getting professional help. So kudos to you, and also for normalizing it and destigmatizing that conversation, because as much information that circulates now, especially with the access from social media, it is still
Mhm.
something that I find people slide in my DMs, like really secretively, like, okay, so I
Yeah.
just want to share. And I get it. I know that they're looking for a
Mhm.
safe space, but they're not ready to acknowledge that, it might. So could you just talk to us a little bit about, you pointed out a few things that I want to touch on, especially about you
Mhm.
saying being a dinosaur in this industry. First of all, I find it wild that anybody would say any such thing, but I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked. How long have you been in the plus fashion industry, and under what capacity have you been here?
Okay. I have been in the plus size industry since 2001. So I would say it's been, I'm like drawing a blank right now.
20,
Like
20
over
years.
20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, 20 years. And I started out in corporate. I used to work for a company. Well, I'll just put it out there. I used to work for Full Beauty when they were known as Red Cats.
Mm.
And now they're known as One Stop Plus. So I worked for them for 8 years, and I started out as a website administrator for King Size Direct, and then I moved up. I ended up being involved with the launch of OneStopPlus.com. I was there when it first began, and it was a lot of work. I was that person who loaded product into the site, dealt with keywords, dealt with merchandising on the site, categories, landing pages, emails, everything. And it was really great. I loved it. And then my last position with the company before I left was Jessica London. I was the ecom manager.
Mm.
So it was a good experience. It was definitely an eye opener because I was always the biggest girl in the room. And, it's easy when you see thin white men in power making decisions for plus size women. And I'm going to say women in general because I don't want to separate plus size women by color when their customers, span, all races, right? But to see that, and they have their own preconceived notions of what we want, and then they would go based on data that they got from focus groups, which of course focus groups I don't think include everyone that should be included. So it was tough, but I did learn a lot. I grew a tough skin in that aspect. And then so when I left, they actually laid me off. They laid off 13,000 people at the time. And I kind of went on an eat, pray, love kind of journey for like 2 years where I cashed out my 401k. People think I'm nuts, but I cashed out my 401k. I took my settlement. They gave me like, they give you a package, a severance package. And I traveled the world by myself. And I
I
kind of was
love
trying to
that.
figure out what was next. I was about to be 40 and I didn't know what I was doing. I had never been married, never had kids. And then the same week I got laid off, my boyfriend left me for another woman. So I had all these things going on, but I felt like deep within me, I felt like God's trying to tell me something. Because usually when, you know, you're being pushed out of a situation, to me, I believe you're being pushed into something better, and sometimes it's hard. We go kicking and screaming, but we get pushed out because I feel like we're given signs to leave a situation, but we ignore it because we become emotionally attached, we become comfortable or whatever. And it gets to a point where God's like, no, no, no. And if you don't believe in God, I think the universe, fate, whatever higher being you believe in, I think says, no, it's your time. You got to go. We need to move you to a better situation.
Yes.
And sometimes that better situation doesn't look like how you want it to look. But if you're patient and you continue to put the work and you continue to follow that journey, you will get to where you see yourself. But you have to keep it real with yourself. So after that, like I just started going to events and blogging. I was blogging about reality TV, which is weird.
Oh,
I'm a
no,
big
No, I think I think
Yeah, I
it's
had a
awesome
blog
because I
called
want to start
Diving
doing
into
that.
Reality TV Addict, and
Yes, I
I was
love it.
like, I was writing recaps on this website called Reality TV Talk, which was really popular. I'm a big Survivor fan. I've watched Survivor and Big Brother since like the beginning. Then I got invited to some event at a store they had that's now closed, and it was like the only plus size thrift store that we had here. And I met Gwen DeVoe at the store. And I remember going up to her and I said, hi, I was told that, to come introduce myself to you because everyone was saying, that's Gwen DeVoe. And I was like, who's Gwen DeVoe? And it turns out she was the producer and co-creator of Full Figure Fashion Week. So when I went up to her and introduced myself, she said, oh, you're Marcy Guevara. She confused me with Marcy Guevara, co-owner of the Plus Bus, who also runs a website called the Marcy Minute. And I was like, no, I'm that other Marcy that you need to know. And she was like, ooh,
Yes,
okay.
Okay, I
ma'am.
was about to say,
You
okay.
got to take advantage of these moments when you network because you never know who you're going to meet.
Mm.
And I've always had that knack of being in the right place at the right time, knowing the right people. People say I'm too nice, but I think that when you show people kindness and you're nice to people and respectful and you listen, I think that that ends up being a benefit because then people think of you when opportunities come up. Because I've always had people put me on to opportunities. So from that
Yes.
moment, I went on to work for her at Full Figure Fashion Week. And that kind of kicked off my career. And then from Gwen, I met Maddie. And I met Maddie at the first Full Figure Fashion Week in LA. So
Okay.
we've known each other for a while. And then things just, and then
And for those
20
who
years,
don't know, Maddie is the editor and owner
editor in chief, and
of
yeah, and
Plus
co-owner of
Model
Plus Model
Magazine. Yeah.
Magazine. Yes. And then she offered me a job as a lead contributor on her blog, which I did for 6 years. And she's been wonderful too. Like, I can't front. Like, this industry has its challenges, but I feel like with me, I've been very blessed and lucky. It's just a matter of ducking the negativity. You gotta bob
Girl,
in with.
it is a full-time workout to duck the negativity. But I something you said, which I want to highlight, is when you said being nice, you feel like that makes you stand out, and you are absolutely correct. The way you and I met was so randomly at my first year at Curvy Fashionista Style Expo in
Yeah, I
2017.
remember.
I had no clue who you were, and
Nope.
nope. And Ashley was like, "You don't know who that is?" I'm like, "No, Simply Curvy," and I was like, "No," and she's like, "From Plus Model Bag," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." But you were so kind, and I literally, after that first day, was so drained by everything that I thought it was supposed to be versus what it ended up being in terms of interactions with people. And on top of that, this was like prior to my arthritis diagnosis. I was just in a lot of pain, and I was sitting, and you just popped down right next to me, and you just started talking to me like, "Here, I'm sorry."
Okay, there you go.
But we're just talking, and I never thought I was, it wasn't in my mind to be like, "Oh, I'm going to get something out of this." I just wanted to network and meet somebody. And over that weekend, she was doing the style crush on Plus Model Mag, and she was like picking people whose outfits she liked, and she ended up putting me in her crush list on Plus Model Mag, and I wasn't expecting that. And so I was really grateful. But then it made me laugh because I watched as some of the mean girls who did not talk to me while I was there turned around and thought, "Oh, Marcy gave the okay, so now I'm going to follow her." It was the most weird thing I ever seen, but unfortunately, it was something that I would go on to encounter more and more. But the one thing I will always say is, whenever I ran into you, whether it was at Lifestyle Honors, Plus Model, whatever we're going to, at whatever event, you always brought that cheerfulness with you. And I think that does make a difference in the industry, which can feel overwhelming and can feel very much mean girlish. You know what I mean? So it's such a pleasure to meet the people who are just like, "I'm here, I want to network, I want to have a good time," and who have genuine motive. So I just want to tell you, I appreciate you for that. I say it all the time. I'm always like, "Marcy put me on," and people think I'm joking, but I'm like, "No, it's for real. Like, she really did."
I appreciate that. And you're wearing that romper, girl. I noticed you before you came over to us. I was like, who is that girl? I said to Ashley, she is gorgeous, and she's wearing the hell out of that romper. Like,
Thank
because I
you.
looked at her and said, she's my size. Like, you know how it feels
Oh
when we
no,
see,
baby. I was
you know what I mean?
probably bigger than you at that point. I was at my height, so I was like 500 pounds. And
Well,
yeah, and I know a lot of people don't know that. I had reposted the
girl.
picture over for Throwback Thursday, and there was a lot going on with my body at the time, but I just remember
Yeah.
feeling like, I remember you and I having that conversation, and we were talking about the sizing and the visibility in the industry. And you are kind of the person who like really made me pay attention to the fact that, oh, we really don't see the larger facts in these conversations. Um, and I think when me and Amade actually like officially met, because Amade and I, we met probably 2018, like in person. Was it 2018 or 2019?
Yeah. Yep.
Um,
No, 19.
2019. Okay, so she and I,
Yeah.
had those conversations as well. And I always gravitate towards my larger fats. I don't know what it is. Like, I feel more comfortable. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, because I know at a bare minimum, y'all are gonna understand. Y'all are gonna understand. And I needed that community because I did not feel included in the plus community.
You know,
Well,
it's
and I
interesting
think
you say
also,
that too. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's interesting that you say that, Alicia, because I still, after 20 years, I still don't know where I belong, but I've kind of surrendered to that. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. And I learned that it's easier for me to just be me.
Mm,
I don't have to
Yes.
belong anywhere.
mm,
You know,
Mhm.
I'm here, I have a mission and a purpose, I have a job to do. And I think that once you surrender that and you just kind of just do your thing, do what you're called to do, a lot of that pressure comes off because it's a lot of pressure and it's very overwhelming.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Absolutely. And um no, I was going to say too, and it fits into that as well, is just the importance of representation, especially at the larger end of the plus size community, because there isn't a lot of it. You know, when people think plus or BBW, they think,
Mm.
size 16, size 18, tiny waist, big boob, big butt, aka my body when I was 19. Moment of
That
silence.
little waist thing was never a thing for me. I don't. When I was born. Okay, got it. Got
but
it.
but yeah, so we think of a certain body, and I know that sometimes it's hard, especially for me, because I had a big sort of life change a couple years ago, as just as far as transitioning into what I want to do, and I've talked about it and written about it a little bit. um I knew the path that I wanted to take, and I know what my talents are, but I was constantly like, oh, when I get, smaller, when I lose weight, then I'll start. And then I finally was just like, forget it. I'm going to do it now. And then part of a step for that was me trying to find people who looked like me doing the things that I wanted to do.
Mhm.
It was harder than it should have been finding them, but it was great finding them because it made it feel like, what I see out there is what I can replicate as well. And also, like, I love me, but it's still a constant journey to love me, and I still get like really nervous before I post certain things. And I know, like, when I found Alicia, like, she was just like so beautiful to me. I think that's one of the times we started talking, I sent her a message, but like just seeing her like happy and just looking so pretty, because I always, when I'm going to post, I feel like, oh, people are going to be like, oh, she's so fat, oh, look at this, look at that. I'm mostly over that now. But at the time, it's definitely been a journey getting there. And one of those things was like seeing Alicia post and being like, I never think that about her. I just see her and think she is beautiful. So I'm sure people see that and think that about me. And even like you, Marcy, like, I would see your pictures and I just loved your fashion. I think I even
Thank you.
remember once you like
It was the
posted about
sneakers for
mixing and
me.
matching prints. And like, I never mix and match prints. And I was like, I'm going to try it, Marcy. But you know what I mean? Like, I see your post and I think about like your awesome fashion. I'm not like, oh, this is how she looks. So like seeing you guys has helped me come out of my shell and post more and be out there. And it's so interesting now because people see me and they're like, oh, you're so confident. I'm like, girl, the journey, like it took time before like every little step you see of me doing stuff on social media. It's like it took me pushing myself and getting there. And I think it's so important and wonderful to have people like you guys to be that example, just
But
for
now
people to like look up to.
you are the example now. You have joined
Yes,
the
so
race.
that
So
we can
it's
work
not
on becoming the example too.
yeah. And
Well, I think we draw strength and inspiration from each other, and I think
yeah,
that's what's important, and I think that's the true sense of community.
you just hit
Yep,
And
the nail on
absolutely.
the head.
yes, and
Absolutely.
because it's true, the self-love journey is a lifetime journey. It's not
Forever.
something that you say, oh, I love myself, okay, cool, the journey's over. No, we're human, and it's perfect, it's perfectly, normal to feel different things on different days. It's, one day you're going to wake up, you're not going to like yourself that much, but that's okay. What counts is, how do you take that energy and what do you do with it? Are you going to sit in it and allow it to take over your life? Or are you just going to dust yourself off the next day, say, I'm going to try again?
Right.
And to me, that's the true, way of building that love for yourself, is saying, I'm going to try. If you're
Yes.
willing to try, you could do anything you set your mind to. You
Yes.
just have to want to try. And that's hard in itself. Believe me. Believe me.
Mhm.
Okay. I suffer from generalized anxiety disorder. And for everyone, it's different. And for me, I have certain things about me that before I was diagnosed, I would just tell people I'm funny. Don't pay any mind to me.
Yeah.
I could be funny that way. And funny meaning there are times when I like to be by myself. I don't like to be around people. And it's very weird. Like when people say, are you an extrovert or introvert? I'm both.
Girl.
Because once I get in a room, I could work a room. But there are
Yes.
times I don't want to be bothered. And I want to be introvert. I want to be home. I don't want to be bothered. Let
Gotcha.
me sit with the dog, listen to Sade, and let me have my glass of wine and leave me alone.
Am I
You know what I
50? Like, am I
mean?
50? I said, am I 50? And I just don't know it. 'Cause You were,
No,
when you
I'm
were
the
earlier
same
talking
way.
about hair and chin. I'm like, sis, this is going on now. What's happening
I feel
now?
like it all started changing at 30. At 30,
Right,
it was
like,
who is this
maybe
person?
she's on to something. I mean, absolutely. And everything that you're speaking to, in terms of the growth you've had, just personal growth and, your not your employer, your career. Why do I want to say employer? But even with your career, like I'll never forget. You were on a panel with me when at TCS
Yes.
in 2018 after we had met, and I'm like, so full disclosure, the panel was pitched as navigating life in a size 28 and up. The title was changed. It was not my choice. It was suggested by those who were in charge that we make it more inclusive. How
Right.
funny. Um, and it was like size 20 and up, right?
The irony.
The irony. So I'm like, okay, we could change the title, but what I can do is my panel all extended size. So that's exactly what I did. I looked for extended size women that I had communications with, who I knew were pleasant people. And it was empowering to sit up there like a boss with mad of my fellow big johns sitting next to me, like
That's right.
to pack an entire room, baby. We packed the entire room. And I'm like, because even though amongst that audience, there were smaller bodies and there were medium-sized bodies, there were larger bodies though. And I know that seeing that
That's right.
empowered them.
It was an incredible feeling to like be with women who looked like me and understood my struggle.
Yes.
Because even though like we're all plus size women, women who are a certain size range, they get it. You know what I mean? Like a size 18 is not going to have the same struggle that I had.
Right.
They have more options. They have, shopping privileges, a size privilege, and so they can be an ally, they can empathize, but they won't know unless they're my size
Right.
what we go through. So yes.
One of the things that I think about, because this show is called More Than My Size, and Namade and I started the show because we wanted to give an alternative perspective to fat bodies. But one of the things we both acknowledge is that we're both on our own weight loss journeys for personal reasons, most of which we've all shared on our personal platforms, but here as well. And one of the things that is the most dominating question from people who are my following is like, what happens when you lose the weight? Who do you become? And I had actually written a blog article about that a few years back. But are you going to stop being an advocate? Are you going to stop being an ally? And at first, I did not really understand, like, what makes y'all think I'm going to suddenly not, rep for y'all? Like, I'm never going to not advocate for you guys. But then to understand that there have been some in this industry, in these spaces, whether they are bloggers, influencers, whatever, who gave the show of fat positive or body positive and love who you are, only to reveal after secret weight loss surgery or even just, whatever they did to get to their weight loss, that they were so unhappy. Then the narrative changes, then the story changes. And I understand now where that frustration comes from. So while I do promote autonomy, I think in this industry, while autonomy is really important, and although we don't technically owe anybody anything, when you have a following, you kind of take on a responsibility, maybe, dare I say, to be forthright with your people so that they know what they're
Yes.
getting. So when you turn around, you suddenly admit to hating yourself. You could have told us during that process that sometimes you have days where you are not happy. And that would have been more beneficial than you
Yes.
and giving us, this fake show. And so I think the onus is on us when we have these spaces, these platforms, these voices, to use them wisely. Um,
Yes.
and I think when I think about your experience in the industry and just the sage wisdom you dropped in the first 15 minutes of this, how would you because I know you and I have had a conversation about it, and now I want you to share your thoughts, because I'm open to learning, and I think a lot of people watching this are. So how do you advise, if you were asked for your advice, because I'm asking it, how would you advise those in the community who are on weight loss surgery journeys or just weight loss journeys? How would you advise that they address it with their audience?
Well, I think that it goes back to what you said. I think the most important thing is to keep it real and be authentic about your journey. Don't try to hide it, or be secretive about it, because I feel that your followers are going to feel betrayed. Those that feel like you're not going to be repping for them anymore.
Mhm.
It's like you said, when you become an influencer and you grow this huge platform that you would not have unless you had the followers to, you know, have your back, then it's like you're going to, when, how can I explain this? I'm sorry, I got distracted because she's running behind me.
Gotcha.
But so sorry. I'm in the middle of an interview, mama, okay? So Didi's talking about important things, okay? We talked about this. Um so I feel like when you grow this following, you take on that responsibility, like you said, to be a role model. It's like celebrities. When celebrities say, "Oh, well, I didn't ask to be a role model," Well, you kind of did if you took on this platform and you invited people to become fans and stuff like that. Like, you promoted that. I don't know if I'm saying the right word with
I get
inviting.
what you're trying to say.
Marcy, actually, I
Somebody
have
who
a
is a
quick
master
question.
following and puts it out there that you want people to support you and be a part of your community. Like, look at Beyonce. She has her beehive. That's her community.
But she's
You know,
also very private.
I was
yes,
actually going to say, like, do you
that's
think it's
another thing
different?
too.
Oh, I was actually going to say, like, do you think it's different for celebrities versus influencers? Because I personally feel like, yes, like when you're a celeb, you know that fandom comes with it. But like your main goal, your focus, whatever, is you're acting, you're singing, whatever. Like you literally didn't ask to become a role model. However, I feel like when you're an influencer, just when you're a social media person, like you said, if you've said you've built a community, which stood out to me because that's the word I always use, because I don't want
Mhm.
followers, I want a community. I want people
Right.
that like mesh with and have a vibe with. But I do think when you're in that light, you definitely do owe people the responsibility of, like you said, because you created, like, I'm creating this narrative that I'm giving you me. I am talking about
Right.
me and my life and whatever. So if I don't give you the full picture of me, then I'm misrepresenting who I am. And even like you said, Alicia, there are people who have so much self-hatred about their size, and then the minute they lose weight they go off about it, and it's like, well, why didn't you
Right.
just say something during the time? Like I say it all the time, like I am all about self-love and loving myself, but I also have like days I feel miserable, and I have things about being larger that I hate, and I talk about it
Right.
on my personal space, and there's nothing wrong with that. People appreciate the vulnerability, but there's definitely, like you said, Marcia, like that responsibility, because you
Yeah.
are a
Two
role
people.
model, especially when you've set it up that way as an
Right.
influencer.
Exactly. I think you should always be transparent, and you should also be authentic from the jump. And it may not be
Well, that
easy
word
because
authentic, it is a buzzword at this point. That's all.
really,
Yeah,
Yeah,
because people use authentic so much, it's almost like a script that
it's
influencers and
inauthentic.
bloggers have
Almost.
to say.
right. Well,
Like,
it's
I'm
it's become like size
authentically.
inclusive, which is a whole other conversation. Yes.
But that's the thing. I mean, honestly, if we really want to be real about it, I think in this particular industry, authenticity and inclusive are kind of going hand in hand these days, because these
Yeah.
brands are pretending to be authentically concerned about the fat representation while simultaneously only giving us up to a size 24 and calling it
Right.
their most inclusive collection. When I hear you say the most inclusive collection that you have, you're basically telling me you was trash for a long time and now you're just kind of not trash anymore at this point. Like that's what it feels like.
But you know that there's no such thing as the word most inclusive. And this is what I keep telling people. That is a made up word by brands and the media. How can you be most inclusive when inclusive means all? How can you be more than all? You know, saying most implies that,
That just means it's the most that they've done so far, thus far, and what
right,
they
but
do.
that doesn't go together. You know, when you say inclusive, you're meaning all. Now, if you're going to say the most sizes they've ever offered, that's more correct. Using most inclusive, every time I see that, I'm like, can
I'm
somebody
tired
please
of
tell
it.
them that that is no such thing as most inclusive? You know, yeah,
Yeah, because
it's
I was gonna ask, like, what size does that stop at? So if we say,
right,
like, if they say they never used to carry plus, now they're carrying up to 24,
right.
and they want kudos because they're finally carrying plus. That's true, but could they carry 28? Could they carry 32?
Right.
Yes, would that be better? Absolutely. But then it's like, is that inclusive? There are people bigger than that
And
size,
they
like,
are.
It's not.
And
and
they,
they don't have those options. Like, where's the size?
well, here's the thing. Luckily for myself, during my at my largest size, I wore a 6X, right? Like that's pretty up there at the top of the ranks.
Hmm.
And I was right, there were some things I could rightfully probably get a 7X in at the time because I was just that heavy. And I remember making Google my friend, and the first time that I shopped with a brand that really went up to that size, it was Ishakti. I
Hmm.
was so nervous because I'm like, oh my God, they're Indian brand. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna get my clothes, like, scammer stuff. I'm not even gonna lie. I was definitely like, I had not, this was my first time. So I had no guarantees that I was gonna get what I ordered, but when it came and it fit, I cried because I hadn't felt pretty in a really long time. I hadn't been into fashion in a really long time. I was at the highest size range that I had been ever in my life. So the places that I had normally shopped, I couldn't shop there anymore, like because they all stopped at the 24. But here's the
Hmm.
thing that amazes me is that I did not recognize my privilege at a 24
Yeah.
because it wasn't even a thought in my head. I could go into store, I could go, especially, you know, go into the mall. Like there were stores that I could go and Rainbows had my size, Lane Bryant had my size, Avenue had
Hmm.
my size. And even with the opening of online stores, right? There were a plethora of places that I could go. The boutiques started popping up probably a lot for me when I was still living in Philly between like 2012, 2013 is when I started to see a rise of boutiques locally where I was at. So even then, when they were like, "Oh, we're plus," I could agree with that because I was in a size 24 and I could fit it. So it wasn't until I was on the other side, and that's what makes me realize that a lot of this is privilege for a lot of fat bodies that they don't realize that they have, and it's not a bad privilege for you to have it, but it's really important for you to acknowledge it. But when it comes to the bodies that have been at our size, larger or smaller, like say they were 28 or 30 when they started, once you lose that weight, if that's what you wanted, I'm proud of you, then I'm happy for you. But don't get silent on us now all of a sudden because the collabs and the offers are coming through and you trying to cut the check. I get it, get your point, sis, but if you have the power to be in rooms with people who make those decisions, are you using your privileged voice to say there's still a population, a community of women who still don't have access to? And I think about that often when I'm looking for places to shop. I make it my business to look for places that carry 7, 8, 9, 10, because even though it may not be as common, it still exists. Now, Universal Standard came through and kind of shut it out. All like they came through with the whole 7, 8, 9, whatever. And
They're great
we
and
need to see
pricey,
more
but
of that.
so
Yes.
wonderful.
And I also
Yeah.
did fit for universal standards. So this is what I tell
Right.
people. They didn't just get a size 18 and then scale up. They had me come in when they started to extend sizes. I was the one who did the fit for the launch. And then after that, what they would do is what is called size runs, where they would have a model come in every size. And they even had someone in the size, like I was in the 2XL, which was the 30-32, but I was like, I'm in between their XL and 2XL at the
Okay.
moment. But they had someone who was in the 3XL, which is It's a 32, no, 34, 36, and then someone in the 38, 40. So they had girls that had come in. Now they weren't signed to the agency. They
Right.
had to find them on Instagram. However, it was great to see that, when I'm standing there, can you imagine? I'm standing there in a line with other models. Smallest model is a 0, okay? And we all standing there and we're all the same. We're wearing the same stuff.
I love
We're
it.
all wearing jeans. We're all wearing leggings. We're wearing dresses. Like, that day was probably one of the best days of my life. And I told Alexandra Woolman that. And I know there's been controversy with her over the term plus size or whatever, but I
I don't
have
even
to
care
say,
about that
like,
because
listen,
she's doing something that we
yes,
can't get people who have been around forever to do. So
right.
whatever little controversy she got, I can deal with a conversation about that. But I have nothing negative to
Yes.
say. And Superfit Hero is another brand that we have
Mm-hmm.
seen bust down the door in the same way Universal Standard did. I
Yes.
had the pleasure of interviewing Anna Chapman. She was on their creative team where
Mm-hmm.
they were making the decisions of what sizes to go up to. And Superfit Hero, I believe, goes up to 10. Now,
I think
they
it's 7.
a 7. They
Yeah,
have
7X.
like different sizing names. It's pretty cool. It's like named after like the galaxy, cosmic, like it's cute. Earth, water, like you name it. So when I was looking at and even just talking to Anna about how they arrived at the steps to be able to make the sizing, but then to see the launch, the embargo on the website be
Oh,
the smallest to the largest,
girl.
it was something in me that was just like, I needed to see this. This does not happen.
Yes.
It was amazing. And I really try not to read the comment section because it's always going to be somebody saying something. And I was bothered by the people who had, there are people who sent it to me like, what do you think about this? They got this big girl up here. I'm like,
Yeah.
I am a big girl. I don't know what
Yes.
I'm gonna say. Like, I'm sorry, my body is not appealing to you, but we also need to know what our clothes are gonna look like on us too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I think Alicia, something that you said that's really important is representation, or being the voice for people in those rooms when they're not there. And I think that it's something that I get on my soapbox a lot, because a lot of times people respect what they respect and they hear what they want to hear. And if you're already in a demographic where they don't respect you, they're
Mhm.
not going to hear what you say. So if you're a
Mm-hmm.
larger person talking to someone who thinks larger bodies aren't worthy of respect or being listened to, nothing you say is really going to come across through to them. It's the same thing as like a woman trying to talk to a misogynist, or a darker person talking to try to a racist. They're not going to listen to you because they don't respect what you
They want
say,
it packaged a
even if what
certain way.
you say is wonderful. And
Exactly.
that's why allies are so important, because the misogynist won't listen to the woman, but he might listen to another man telling him the same thing. Same thing with the size thing. They may not listen to a larger body. I can shout from the rooftops that I deserve respect, but you don't respect larger bodies, you don't care what I have to say. But maybe someone smaller,
Right.
you might actually listen to them. So it's
That's
really
the point.
important for us to be out here and for us to give representation and to show our stuff. But it's also really important for our smaller size people, regular size and just smaller plus size people, to remember us on the other side as well. And when they get into those rooms, that they are now getting the respect in, that they keep that in mind. And it's one of the things that I love about Cece Olisa. I'm such a huge fan of hers, but she's lost quite a bit of weight throughout her
Yeah.
sort of journey on blogging, social media, her business, but she
Mm-hmm.
still has always remembered her larger size and
Yeah.
been an advocate for it, which is vital.
Yeah, that advocacy is key as an ally, and that's one of the things that Marcy and I had an opportunity to talk about on a one-on-one level because we were discussing like the whole weight loss thing within the community and stuff like that. And one of the points that she made, which resonates with me because I totally agree, was we need y'all to still show up. Even if you
Yes.
lose the weight, we need you to still show up. And there's quite a bit of controversy. I'm sure we've all seen it right now about Athleta. and their launch. And it's not like controversy, but it's like fat girls that don't wear 24, we don't have access. But apparently, Athleta has been reaching out to digital content creators, requesting them to be ambassadors, and people are like, I wear size 5 X. You don't carry my size, and God, the egg on the face, they must feel it. But at any rate, um, in the same breath, I have seen many of my contemporaries, my colleagues, my equals in the blogging space gleefully gone ahead and take the Athleta brand, but when they're getting questioned about it on the Athleta page, they're not responding. They're not speaking up. No, you aren't the culprit. You don't own Athleta, but you are now an ambassador. You have somewhat of a voice and you're a smaller body. Can you please remember to maybe bring it to Athleta or your coordinator and say, hey, listen, they're making some valid points. Perhaps you guys, however you can use your voice, use it. And I think that's the part that we really need to see more of within the plus community, because as much as there are many who say fat is fat, right? We all know in the plus community, they consider it a spectrum, and you are a small fat,
Yes.
medium. Because I've been around the people who say, I'm fat, but I'm not fat, or I'm not fat,
Right.
I'm a little thick in the hips, you know? And
Right.
instead of people
Yeah,
just
I'm
embracing,
sick.
because I think you pointed out, no, I'll say, my baby, the Flying Fluffy, Joy, we used to have a show where we recap like girlfriends, but she shared her messages in her stories the other day. And somebody literally, like, it was on her Universal stand-up picture, which was beautiful, right? And they made the comment that she needed to go have weight loss surgery or something, like ASAP, go have it. But the kicker, she was fat. The girl sending her the message was fat. And
Yes.
I'm like,
Oh, of
we're like
course.
this in our own community. What is wrong with us?
Mhm.
What is
Well,
wrong with us?
because
Most of the
self-hatred
comments.
doesn't have a size. Self-hatred doesn't have a size.
Yeah.
So you'll have, women and men, and it's all self-hatred at the end of the day, because happy people don't feel the need to say negative things. But especially someone who's unhappy with their body as a larger body, like if they have a larger body and they feel nothing but shame and remorse and guilt and all those horrible feelings about being in public, like how dare someone else have the audacity to not feel horrible in public? Like,
I'm so
no,
sorry.
that was
No,
slick.
first of all, I'm
I
like, I'm
laughed. It
just
was so,
tickled. I'm
no, it
tickled.
was slick. But like if they're so busy having self-hatred, like it riles them up even more to see somebody else be totally fine and accepting of themselves. And so of course they have to say something, because now they have to try to bring that person down. But it's like what they say, if somebody's trying to bring you down, they're already acknowledging where they are. That's why they're trying to bring you down to that level. Just
Mm.
ignore it, because you don't
Yeah,
want
they're
either.
deflecting. They're
Yeah.
deflecting. Because
Yeah.
most of the negative comments come from other plus women and men.
Hmm.
To be
Yep.
honest with you, most of
Sometimes
the
I keep
negative,
feeling like the plus men should be having a conversation, and the plus go to the big and tall corner and sit there.
Well,
yeah,
everywhere, man.
it's
But that goes back to the whole idea that everybody is out here for the pleasure and the consumption of everyone else. I'll try not to get on my soapbox about this, but Alicia, it's a trigger for me. It just drives me nuts. Like, we are out here
yes,
to be our own people. Like, I'm out here to live my life and my existence. My existence is not here for your approval. I do
Right.
not exist for men to want me or for women to
right.
think I'm beautiful. Like, I exist because I exist. This is who I am. I'm here. Should you find me appealing? Great. You have good taste. Congratulations. Should you not? I don't know what to tell you.
You're
But
blind. You need
you're
Exactly.
glasses.
missing out. You're
Congratulations.
missing out if you don't. But you know what I mean? Like, it's not,
Exactly.
we're not here for your consumption. So your approval of me doesn't matter. So unless I asked you, zip it. But so many
Mhm.
people are incapable of doing that. And it's amazing.
Yes, and we chatted about that on our last episode about online bullying. So yeah, it still reverberates right now. So if you guys haven't seen that episode, go back, watch it. It'll be linked right here. But at any rate,
And
we're
I
gonna
just wanted to add to that. This is why when people ask me, because I get questioned a lot about, because I have low numbers in comparison to other influencers.
you
I'm
have
almost
over
at
10K in the
11K.
bag.
Right. But I don't let it bother me, because I tell people I block men daily. Like if
Mm,
I didn't block men,
use this.
I would be at like 100K. Like I block daily, like at least 100 men. And like I only keep men that I know or like fellow big and tall influencers, or people who I feel like are following me, not to like gaze at me, but actually want to offer, conversation or whatever. So I go in there and I block so many men. And I actually started doing this when I spoke with Sammy Lou from she's in Australia, and she's known as Curvy Sam. She's a blogger also. She blocks men, and I found it very interesting because I said I'm getting all these like weird requests and like penis images and just like a lot of these marriage proposals. And I said, I'm not here for that. Like, I'm not here for that. I'm not here for the male gaze.
Mhm.
Right.
You know,
The
that's
male
why
gaze. That's a
yeah,
good
I don't
way.
post in lingerie. Like, I think I did a bra post, but it was more like it wasn't
It
sexual. It
is.
was about fitting a
Yeah,
bra,
we seen
you
it.
know. But I'm very careful with what I post,
Yeah.
because of that, and because I know I have a young following. I have like my second largest segment is between the ages of 16 and 22.
Oh, wow.
Mm.
So yeah, and it's interesting because I'm 50, and like my biggest following is ages 24 to 34.
Okay.
Yeah, 25 to 35 or whatever. But when I look on social media, on like on my data, I look at that and I say, wow, like I'm surprised like the young folks like me. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm still
You're
cool.
You're
likable.
still hip. You still got it.
So I'm like,
And
okay.
you're still hip. Like you're
But you know
from
what,
New
too?
York, so we expect that, right?
It's
Uh,
Yeah.
also
And I
like no matter, I was gonna say, it's also like no matter what you do though, they'll come. Like you can just have a smiley face and there are the men. I started doing water aerobics on my pages, like recording
uh-huh.
my
I
dance.
saw it. I love it.
They were in my DMs
showing
about my
out.
bouncing, about the girls. I was like, really, people? Like I'm trying to like promote positivity. I happen to be a bathing suit and all you want to do is talk about the bouncing girls
Right.
in my
Yes,
DMs. Like, come
look,
on now.
people go live with me, and then immediately after, they're like, "There's a lot of guys in my inbox now," and I know it's because they come to
It's
those
even
lives. It's what?
it's even worse when I do lives with you because I do lives frequently. But
That's
anytime I
not
do
what I
lives
was
with
getting at. What
Alicia,
I was saying.
here come the men, all of Alicia's
Uh,
men, all of my.
but listen, I remembered what Marcy said, and I deleted 3,000 people over the
Wow.
course of a month. It's not even making a dent, but it has brought so right now, according to Instagram's analytics, I'm at like 62.8% women, and like the remaining is like 30 something or 20 something, whatever. It's like 38 point something is men. So I'm trying to get it down to the 20% mark, basically, because that's where
Yeah.
it's more even killed for you to have majority women. But it's hard because there's so many of them. And sometimes if you're not careful, they will have a avatar of a woman. So you might think it's a
Yes.
woman following you if you don't go in and like inspect their page. And when you get a lot of followings all at once, or maybe like a batch, you're not gonna run through everybody's page. You're gonna just be like, oh, nice, and you don't know until they start sending you like weird stuff. So it's tough, I think. But seeing the Madi do the water aerobics, I still think that representation is needed. So even though there's a downside
Yeah.
to what happens, like we're here for it. We need it. And like we're just gonna discount that the men exist, and we're gonna continue to try to be
Just
great.
ignore them.
But
We
So
do the best we could do. Like I'm up to 80% women now.
yeah,
Yeah. And because I learned behind the scenes that brands look at comments and
oh yeah.
brands look at your following. And if
yeah,
they see that you have a high percentage of men following you, they're not going to want to work with you
You don't
because
do them any good.
men are not the ones that are shopping.
Very
Even though
right.
some influencers say, oh, their husbands shop for their wives. No, yes, maybe some do, but it's not a big enough percentage
It's
that,
not. I've only had a handful of husbands ever be like, I'm trying to get my wife. That's happened
yeah, no.
four times.
And so brands look at that. Brands look at
And
who's following you, and brands look at, the content you post and the comments. They read the comments. And if they see a lot of men posting And I mean, there's some brands that don't care. Like if you're trying to get with a lingerie company, that's one thing. But let's say you trying to go for like a Lane Bryant or an Eloquy, but yet you posing, in a way that is provocative, which there's nothing wrong with that. But then the comments are all from men, and a lot of them are like lewd comments, and you leave them there or you engage with them. That's not a good look if you're trying to go for like a brand like a Eloquy or a Lane Bryant. You have to really do your research and be diligent, and not just get mad and say, oh, this brand don't want to work with me. You have to really look at your content and what you're putting out there, and do your research. And then after all that, if they still don't want to work with you, okay, then you got receipts. You say, look, you know what I mean? But you can't just dismiss it out the gate if you haven't done the work on your part. We can only control what we do.
Right.
We can't control what a brand
Marcy,
does, you know?
Marcy, I was gonna say, I love like the nuggets that you've been able to share with us. Like Alicia said at the top of the hour, like you have been in the industry for so long, and we love you spending time with us and talking to us. As you know, the show is called More Than My Size, so you're our first real guest. So I want to ask you just a question, as we lead to the end of this, which is, what do you think makes you able to be more than your size? Like, what helps you be all that you are and put yourself out there in a way that might help motivate other people to live their life as more than just their size?
I think taking control of my narrative, not letting somebody else tell my story. Too many times we fade into the background because we're made to feel like, we're just our size, like we're not worthy of taking space. We're not worthy of doing certain things because of our size. And I think that taking your power back is also controlling your narrative, putting it out there, putting your story out there yourself and saying, this is my story. The story they're telling, no, it's my story. I'm going to tell it. So I think once you take control of your own narrative, and you be so authentic, and you just be you. My dad used to always say, there's no one else in the world like you. There's only one you in the world. So why not be proud of that? Why not revel in that, And I'm so sorry. Yes. So
Okay, look, little mama is getting in on the conversation. We have definitely appreciated you and the babies,
Absolutely.
and all of the insight and the nuggets that you dropped for us.
yes.
And I hope you continue to do that from your platform, because I think there are a lot of people who could stand to learn from you and your experience. And that's really what community is each one teach one, right?
That's
So
right.
thank you again so much for joining us. Can you just let everybody know where they can find you on social media and what your website is?
Okay, my blog is called Fearlessly Just Me, and it's www.fearlesslyjustme.net. On Instagram, I'm at Fearlessly Just Me. Facebook, the same. And Twitter, I am Fearlessly Just Me, but without the T in just.
All
Because
right.
I have characters. So everybody stay empowered.
I see you. We're
And
gonna drop your tags along the bottom though, just to make sure that people are able to catch up and follow. Thank you guys
yes.
so much for joining
Thank
us for another
you.
episode of More Than My Size, and we will see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.